Hi, and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed yourselves yesterday listening to our great day one content, exploring the networking pavilion and the exhibit halls, and connecting live with sponsors, exhibitors, and attendees. My name is Abigail Glenn Chase. I'm ACA's Director of Programming and Communications, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to day two. We started our morning today with an awesome roundtable session on digital and physical infrastructure, sponsored by our friends at L3 Harris. And now I'm excited to start our programming with two great tech talks, with the first with Mantech's VP and Practice Lead for Intelligent Systems Engineering, Dr. Douglas Oriana, and JMA Solutions VP of Global Affairs and Aviation Solutions, Mr. Anthony Tisdall. If you joined us yesterday, you'll notice that our audience participation tool is right under the video pane, and there you can answer a poll. This is our ACA community question, and they're meant for you to answer. You can also go back to prior sessions and participate in community questions that came before through the Event Hub or by typing in acatech.cnf.io. We'll take questions today for both speakers if time permits, so feel free to use our Q&A and upvote those you find interesting. I put a sample question in the feed there for you, and in case you're interested, Chipotle burritos is the correct answer. Please also participate in the session evaluation that'll pop up about 10 minutes prior to the ending of this and every session. We appreciate all your feedback and we take it really seriously. So I'll be right back after the tech talks, but in the meantime, I hope you enjoy our first talk on leveraging digital engineering and transdisciplinary thinking from Mantech's Dr. Douglas Oriana. Doug?
Thank you, Abigail, for the introduction, and thank the Tech Symposium for having me here. And just so everyone knows that the question and answering it actually is working, I also see the question. So my favorite food is New York pizza. So we all have our favorites. One of the things I wanted to do today is to carry the theme from yesterday's panel on maximizing the value over the air traffic management digital transformation. Today, I want to dive a little bit deeper on how the FAA can leverage digital engineering and transdisciplinary thinking to help accelerate adoption of new technologies and help the organizational and cultural transformation that come along with this digital transformation.
Doug, just an FYI, your session or your PowerPoint is in presenter mode.
Okay.
I want to turn it on slide deck. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yep, sorry, no problem. I probably shared the wrong screen here. There we go. Over my career, I've worked at various organizations, almost kind of within digital engineering and evolving my practice as an engineer with the newest and greatest methods in digital engineering over the last decade. It's evolved from traditional modeling simulation to now system modeling language techniques to now really becoming a transition period of having all this data within the engineering realm be integrated together. And it really aligns with the fourth industrial revolution. If you look at history during each of the industrial revolutions, they all have had three phases in common: the installation period, the turning point, and deployment. The information age is here. We are in the turning point, rounding the bend into deployment. The information has affected the way we live, work, and relate to systems. For National Airspace System, you're beginning to see disruptors to what is known and was very once predictable. SpaceX, Amazon, Google, Virgin, and many others are pushing the National Air System to be more dynamic by challenging the NAS to integrate to new business models beyond what we do today. Just look at the emergence of keeping airspace under 400 feet safe, between personal unmanned aerial vehicles to pushes to use UAVs for the last mile of delivery. Congestion of this critical airspace will not just be driving economical consideration, but a huge public safety consideration. We need to be able to use technology to better understand the problem and how we can solve these issues. Even looking at traditional airliners, we have seen a change. Airplanes are now carrying so much data at the edge that we need to see how we can empower this data in a new paradigm of Internet of Things and distributed workloads. Another trend that you would see during each revolution is the time to get the deployment has shortened. Just looking around at the enterprises that we were here just a decade ago, that are not here today, Toys R Us, many other businesses, they all failed by not accepting how to use the technology for their business and their objective. For the FAA, it is no different. To keep up with the changing world and providing safety to our national airspace, we need to embrace technology. We need a mechanism to not let technology surpass the capacity we're able to adopt in a rigorous and safe manner. And I truly believe that in order to be able to adopt these new technologies, we also need to update how we assess and analyze these technologies for adoption. So how did we get here and got these demands? Technology has evolved for the consumers and users and how we want to use technology. Our requirements for systems has increasingly become to be more resilient, scalable, sustainable, and socially acceptable. We can't just look at technologies to help us transform, but we need to relook at policies that will allow the transformation to happen. We need to be able to respond not in 5 to 10 years, but find new methods to respond at the speed of relevancy. This will allow us to expect success in safety critical fashion. In the words of yesterday's panel, we need to get a way to say yes faster. And we need to synthesize historical data that we have and the data captured day in and day out. Use the data to build trust into the adoption of new technologies and solutions. Rethink operations that will allow us to blend the new realities of the NAS. Push the NAS to meet the needs of the traditional operations and emerging unmanned autonomous vehicles, hypersonics, and space operations. The reality is we need to look at how the NAS will adopt these new emerging technologies while continuing to improve and provide a service level of safety to the public. As we have seen in this past year with COVID, we need systems that can bend but not break, that can react and evolve into new realities quicker than ever before. How can we leverage big data analytics augmentation to assist controllers? How can we use data visualization, augmented reality, and virtual reality to provide better situational awareness or training to controllers, needing to adjust to new technologies? The adoption of these technologies will change current paradigms, and what we need to ensure is we are able to analyze and predict emergent behaviors of its adoption into the NAS. By using transdisciplinary thinking, we can look at the NAS for what it is, a social cyber physical system, where the human is key to its success. Human system integration and how we evaluate for it will be key to the success of the NAS. With the introduction of automation and analytics, operational tactics, techniques, and protocols will also need to evolve. This will require new training across the enterprise, new systems that will enable success. And human system integration, to me, it was a 6-year journey for me to actually do a lot of research in this area as part of my doctorate, and really understanding how humans get architected into the system, how our cognitive abilities can affect the system performance and optimization. And really, in order for us to evolve and use a lot of these technologies, we have to evolve the processes and methods and how we design these technologies into the systems themselves. I like this quote from John Cotter's book, Accelerate. The world is changing at a rate at which the basic system structure and culture built over the past century cannot keep up with the demands being placed on them. The reason I like this is because digital transformation goes beyond the technology. A lot of our technological needs today could be and can be answered through what the technology that we have today. The bigger question is how we can take these systems and transdisciplinary thinking to analyze how we build these systems and how we acquire them to get fruitful benefits with this technology. How we change our paradigm on adopting these technologies and changing our policies to be open and agile enough to accept these technologies into safety critical systems. If we want to adopt these new technologies, we need to revamp our acquisition system for the information age. Find safety critical methods to ensure trustworthiness of integrations. We need to look at how we build an innovation environment where the system of innovation can produce a modernized, innovative system, in our case, the evolution of NAS. Through the various technologies mentioned, we can create this system of innovation enabled through a digital engineering ecosystem. So what is digital engineering? Digital engineering is an integrated approach that uses authoritative sources of knowledge to support lifecycle activities from concept through disposal. Digital engineering combines model-based techniques, digital practices, and computing infrastructures to enable the delivery of high payoff solutions to end users at the speed of relevancy. It modernizes how scientists and engineers conceive, design, operate, and sustain capabilities. We are able to make connections between data that were once isolated in one engineering discipline or tossed over the fence to creating a set of authoritative sources. Working together in a digital thread to seamlessly expedite interoperability between stakeholders, informing decision makers with context into actionable information. What was once institutional knowledge of few becomes transparent to larger enterprises, enhancing communication and increasing confidence that solutions will perform as expected. Models and data can be used to increase the understanding of the system to achieve greater flexibility and adaptability during and after design. The importance of digital engineering will be the ability to create virtual test beds for concepts much earlier in the system lifecycle to adjust requirements and finding gaps in meeting FAA objectives. To be able to connect data across organization and use tacit knowledge of the community to solve major negative disruptors like COVID did this whole last year. Digital engineering presents a new opportunity for us. It allows us to better collaborate across organizations, across disciplines, to really take that transdisciplinary approach. Yesterday, during the digital transformation panel, Leanne Ridgway from Collins Aerospace and Rebecca Guy from the FAA spoke about how simulation could have a greater importance to the digital transformation of the FAA. Beyond the more traditional modeling simulation capabilities or integrated requirement and architecture of descriptive models, digital twins present a huge opportunity. A digital twin is an integrated multi-physics, multi-scale probabilistic simulation of an as-built system enabled by the digital thread, and uses the best available models, sensor information, and input data to mirror and predict performance over the life of its corresponding physical twin. The physical twin being the operational system that is fielded and being operated and sustained. A digital twin can create a comprehensive approach to realizing how the adoption of these new technologies could impact NAS. Through methods like multidisciplinary analysis and optimizations, engineers can assemble workflows across disciplines and organizations to run design of experiments and optimize results for parameters of interest. Mantech has done this for space operations, where early integration studies once took minimum of 18 months of manual labor to evaluate. We can now do this in days to weeks by automating workflows of various models together to create early integration studies of these launch vehicles. This distributed environment not only allows for subject matter experts to design the workflows, but the decision makers to see the results and toggle through designs and scenarios to trade the results. The multiplication of design cycles allows engineers to explore more of the problem space and solution space that traditionally we were not able to. We are now only limited by computing power, which with every day passing, the higher usage of high power computing becomes more accessible through cloud providers, and push for quantum computing has accelerated our ability to run very complex integrated trades and build higher level fidelity models into those trades. As a company that provides cyber solutions to our customers, we also put focus on moving digital twins beyond the form and fit of physical system characteristics. We're also integrating the cyber considerations. Developing a cyber physical digital twin allows us to see how command, control, communications, computers, and cyber get affected through everyday operations as well. Given the situation with the Colonial Pipeline recently, this capability to be able to virtualize the whole system in its current state can allow us to better harden and analyze vulnerabilities against cyber and physical threats. Give us a true test bed that will assess physics-informed cyber behaviors as well as cyber-informed physics behaviors. This platform allows you to reduce risk in your DevSecOps pipelines by using live test beds with up-to-date state of the physical twin in operation, ideally reducing risk to push updates to software or hardware out of the operational system, and getting to the yes with all the critical safety checks without disrupting current operations. The flexibility of these live test beds allows us to run scenarios until enough risk is burned down and still allowing us to test against real operational data seen in operations. So we are in the turning point in this technological revolution of the information age. For us to ensure success, we must take a transdisciplinary approach and consider what emerges from the digital transformation. We need to change our vision to agilely accommodate unforeseen technical opportunities, get the yes quicker, but with the same rigor and level of detail. Change our culture from the vicious, rigid requirements to a dynamic, agile evolution of requirements. Look at emerging requirements and how quickly we can adapt and ensure safety and update operations. Change our methodologies from traditional system engineering V approach to a more elastic digital engineering approach, using new methodologies for discovering the art of the possible and setting up transparency across the enterprise. Update our tools to include digital twins, multidisciplinary analysis and optimization, data analytics, machine learning, and AI. Let's not just integrate emerging technologies to the system of interest, but the system of innovation. Update our knowledge of more education and training in modern digital engineering environments. Digital transformation is more than integrating new technologies, but it's a cultural and organizational paradigm shift. A time to reflect on how we improve to adjust to our new realities, especially given this past year. And most importantly, evolve our policy and governance to meet the demands of emerging airspace needs and adoption of technology. We have early opportunities to use predictive data analytics, machine learning, and augmentation that will build trust and confidence in these digital technologies and the application of them. Similar to current mandates incorporating AI into FAA, other mandates and policy changes should be analyzed to meet current demands. And with that, I want to thank you, and I want to see what questions I could answer from the Q&A. So one of the questions in the Q&A is, how do you propose to being the process of evolving the FAA technological infrastructure to take advantage of the changes you have described in your talk? So digital engineering has been a big push, by many, and it was actually mentioned in the panel yesterday. That it has been really being pushed by the DoD, and a lot of the other federal agencies are now coming up to speed with what digital engineering is and how it can be applied. Many of the best practices for digital engineering as it evolves, right? As we hit the deployment of digital engineering into practice, into day-to-day practice, and creating systems that are born digitally. A lot of that is an infrastructure question. And in order to push ahead and have these systems be born and operated in this digital fashion, one of the best lessons learned that the Air Force has been using is to create an ecosystem that the federal government owns, and that providers, contractors, stakeholders can all be part of. That doesn't mean that the federal government owns all the tools, doesn't really mean that they own all the data, but it does create a area of collaboration. And really, from a governance perspective, the FAA would need to look at data rights as contractors deliver their capabilities into the NAS, how we can create modularity, so we can reuse these models that are being delivered to be able to be connected together. Looking at different technologies of interoperability of data. In essence, this is a data problem, and you don't want data paralysis. And part of this engineering paradigm shift has been, how can I expose data, and then how can I use that data and empower that data to make me empower myself to make decisions. So overall, I think there's going to be an evolution as FAA begins this journey to potentially use digital engineering in ensuring that our networks and infrastructures are secured and optimized for the reality of today, for how new systems can be delivered from a digital first mindset. And with all that, I truly believe that the transformation can happen. Second question I have, and I'm not sure how much more time I have, but I'll answer this one. How do you maintain the FAA's outstanding operational safety record while absorbing all this change? So part of this is that you're not going to do this digital transformation, or any transformation shouldn't be a whole hum effort. You really want to get these initial wins with real high value. So, you're not going to go in and say from day one to day two, we're going to be all digital. I think, there's a transformation process that needs to happen. A lot of this has to happen in a very iterative fashion, getting first wins, starting out with, how do I, move our acquisition to a digital state, and taking what those increments could be. Instead of having RFPs that are, fully documented, starting to change some of that into providing models as a way to acquire system, and requiring models, right, to see how contractors are meeting requirements, and then slowly evolving that over time. In the DoD, that's been almost a 10-year journey, and I think because they have set the pathway into what is being done, and starting to build systems that are born digital, I think there's a lot of lessons learned that we can pick from that to accelerate the transformation at the FAA. And from a safety perspective, one of the things that in my past, as I worked in digital engineering, has been using digital engineering for power control systems for modular nuclear reactors. And those regulatory bodies, they want you to prove, just like the FAA, that their safety is paramount. And in order to do that, I believe digital engineering allows us to really look and take the rigor of integrating safety into everything that we do, and be able to analyze that and keep up with that heritage. Abigail, do I have questions for more, or?
Yeah, you have two more. You have 2 more minutes, so I think you have time to answer one more, and then we can come back to you if there's still time at the end.
All right, great. So I'll answer one more question. So there was a question on whether this was Kessel Run. So Kessel Run is one of the many ways that the Air Force is trying to transform, but that's just one. So Cloud One is an environment and an ecosystem or infrastructure where a lot of the digitally born systems are actually going to be developed in. Where a lot of the OEM contractors, as well as the system engineering technical advisors, the system integrators, and the customer themselves are able to collaborate, be able to distribute modeling simulation capabilities and models. And they're really building that ecosystem up to be able to house and own the technical baselines, but not just owning the data, but understanding the context in which the data lives. So Kessel Run is definitely a part of it, but as we move forward, I think that there's a larger ecosystem that needs to be built out. So with that, I want to thank everyone for the time, and it's now my pleasure to introduce the next Tech Talk, Tony Tisdall. Tony is a Senior Vice President of Global Affairs and Aviation Solutions for JMA Solutions, and he is here to talk to you about potential and practical applications of virtual and augmented reality in the NAS. Tony, over to you.
Thank you very much, Doug. I really appreciate that. And very interesting topic, obviously, and almost put the ball right on the tee for us with our VR, or I guess it would be XR conversation we're about to have. So I really appreciate that. But I think most importantly, I have to answer the food question that Abigail put in originally. And there is nothing like a real Philadelphia cheesesteak. So we'll just go from there, and then we can get started with the presentation. So one of the things that Doug talked about was the fact that there's a 3-phase evolution as you start moving into a digital environment. And one of the middle parts, obviously, was the turning point. And I think as we start to progress through this, you'll see we are certainly at a turning point in a lot of different areas. But what we're going to talk about for the next 15 minutes or so is the potential and practical applications of virtual and augmented reality in the NAS. And Abigail is going to help me with the slides, so she can just move forward on this one. Before we get started, a lot of you know JMA Solutions, and we certainly appreciate the partnership and friendship we've had over the years with our ACA family. But one of the things you may not know about us is just recently we've started to put something together called JMA iLab, and that's really the genesis for what we're going to be talking about today. And really it's what we're trying to do is put together some thought leadership and really do some deeper research into a lot of these emerging technologies. So you can take a look at the slide. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but if you look down, you can see at least a few of the things that we're definitely interested in. You may see some more publications coming out of JMA Solutions. We're very deep now into the first responder UAS community. So we're just trying to take a look at that. And at some point we would welcome people who are interested in having these type of conversations to participate with us. But we'll move on now to the presentation. Just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. And kind of what Doug alluded to is necessity is the mother of invention. Things are changing constantly, right? COVID has opened up a lot of new opportunities and also exposed a lot of holes in some of the things that we're doing with. So as we move on to the next slide, you'll see that what has it really done? When we think of resiliency and operational continuity, we tend to speak in the language of, can we still move airplanes, right? Can we still get from A to B? What do we need to do to make that happen? You look at things like the equipment outage at Washington Center a few years ago, the Chicago fire several years ago. And in our community, that's what we tend to look at. But one thing that COVID really exposed to the fact was all of a sudden, all the training basically stopped, at least in the air traffic control environment. And I'm sure it was very similar in other areas like tech ops as well. So how do you just kind of pick that up again and get that moving? So here we are 15, 16 months into the pandemic. And just now we're really starting to see the controller workforce come back in from a training perspective. The second part of that is, as Doug really well alluded to, the fact that there's an acceleration now of what I'll call digital disruption, right? Things are changing. People are looking to things like virtual reality. And people are looking at other things just like Zoom. And here we are talking on Zoom today instead of being in person. So there's clearly some way that we have to make this adjustment faster, quicker, and more meaningful. You can go ahead, Abigail, and move through the next slide. So NAS resiliency and operational continuity. Clearly, it addresses things like fires, attacks, cybersecurity. Right? Doug mentioned that extensively on that. And this may not be the last pandemic. I mean, we're in a very odd environment, depending on who you're looking at or talking to or reading. You know, as nature and man, you know, mix continually, there may be another one of these somewhere online. Who knows, right? The interruption here, however, primarily has occurred because we couldn't get to our facilities. We didn't have that option because of social distancing, right? We had to figure out a way to do that. So what was the solution? Virtual communication, and here we are on Zoom, right? So one of the things that is a shortcoming is just kind of the way that things work through. You know, we train in a very particular way, right? We have book smarts and, you know, we're looking at manuals, we're reading directives, we're doing all that. We're taking tests, we're looking at maps. There is a lot of requirement to be heads down and reading things, right? And now a dinosaur like myself may think that's the proper way to go. But as the next generation comes up, you have to really be looking at things with our technicians and our air traffic controllers. They've grown up in a different environment. They are digitally oriented. They're on their phones constantly. They can surf the internet to the end of the internet. They know all this. It's intuitive to them. So we really have to get to a point where agencies are looking more towards this blended learning type of environment. And then you can get some on-demand access to the content. Overall better. There's a lot of a lot of research on this. So it's been proven to be very, very effective. Right. So as we move on, you can take a look at some of the things that we're talking about. And right now we're looking effectively at extended reality. Extended reality is a buzzword that captures both virtual and augmented, and we're going to kind of step through this a little bit. So what is the difference between virtual reality and augmented reality? We're going to step through it, but here's a couple of examples on the slide you can take a look at. I have no idea what Beat Saber is, but I know what simulations are, right? So that's a virtual reality type of thing. You are fully immersed into what you're doing. Augmented reality, for those of you that understand Pokemon Go and put your dog ears on or your mustache on when you're on Snapchat or Instagram, you've played with that. And a lot of our cell phones are actually now geared towards that. On Google's Maps, not only can you get directions, but you can go into a VR environment that's going to show you restaurants and actually show you the turns you have to make. And it's going to give you more information than just a map normally would. So let's go to the next slide and we'll step through some of these in a little bit more detail. Abigail, there we go. So here's our solution. This is the type of research that we're doing and partners we're teaming with on this one, right? They offer robust training experience that simulate hands-on learning applications and provide visual rich data visualizations, right? That are accessible and in a targeted manner. Whoever is providing the instruction can actually target what the students are going to be seeing. And that's really important, right? Because not only now are you looking at an order that's several hundred pages long, you can just target what that is and actually see a practical application of what you're looking at. And as you can see from the two pictures, virtual reality, we're all familiar with those masks. You throw a headset and a speaker on that, a voice speaker on that, and you really have no idea what's going on around you, right? You can put noise canceling headphones on and your reality is what you're seeing and what you're hearing. In augmented reality, as you can see that picture, we've got a part, but not only do we have a part, we actually can put the manual directly on top of that part. What an improvement than having to look and go and look and then pull up the page and find the page and look through the directory. This is where we're heading in a digital environment. Next slide, please, Abigail. So here's a little bit more to it. You can see another really good example of that piece of equipment, and then you actually can start to see the diagrams associated with that, right? And then here is part of our definition. Augmented reality is open and partially immersive. So you see what's around you. You are still in an actual environment, but what it's doing is taking you into that next level down. And that's really what's important, okay? I don't have to go, and even though everything now is available on the internet, you can pull up these manuals on your phone or your tablet or your computer. What a benefit it is to actually being able to look at it as you're looking at that piece of equipment and being able to page through to what's critical. And then you can see the platform here, right? Use on mobile phones. The virtual reality, totally different, as I said. It is closed and it is fully immersive, right? You are actually seeing what you need to do. So this is a very interesting concept, right? And as an old air traffic controller, you kind of wonder, how could I use this? How could I actually use this to benefit things? And when you think of the pandemic, just imagine, maybe radar might be a little more complicated at this point, but it's still eventually doable. But for all those individuals that are coming up in a tower environment, for example, you could create a simulation in a VR environment of what that tower looks like and what the equipment's there. You could literally simulate those same tasks. Put a couple of gloves on, you start touching the buttons. You can literally move the strip from one bay to the next, right? So these are concepts that I know people are thinking about now, but we are right on the cusp of really seeing how this can benefit things. And it's not intended to replace the simulations. I mean, we've got great simulators now. I mean, amazing stuff compared to what it was years ago. Next slide, please, Abigail. So why now? Why now? We believe there's 5 basic reasons, right? So here's your demographics. We're talking about the me's of the world, and then we're talking about the next generation coming up. They're comfortable with this. They're comfortable with a blended training type environment. They expect it. They're not responsive to the way we used to do things. Here's our objectives. Here's our pre-test. Here's the blah, blah, blah. Here's our post-test. Did you learn anything? They're expecting things to be different now. Access, right? Most cell phones are AR. We kind of live in this environment no matter who we are. Agility, okay? You can make things different in the same environment using that same headset. As people progress, for example, in the tower, from clearance delivery flight data to ground control, you can tailor it, you can develop it, right? And move along. The pandemic exposed things. It really exposed things. We were talking before this session about there are silver linings associated with what occurred. One of them is the fact that this digital environment, again, that Doug talked about extensively, it's here. And it now is important enough that people are looking at that as the wave of the future. And then viability. I talked to someone in industry that did radars. They built radars. And they bring people in from all over the world to their factory to train them on their equipment. What if you didn't have to do that? And you can see already the investment, right? All the majors, they're investing in this, Microsoft, Facebook, and Apple, right? So as we progress along, we want to talk about 3 very specific cases that JMA iLabs is taking a look at. One is air traffic controller training. Another is satellite and radar technician training. And then just recently, you've seen something from the FAA where they're really encouraging the youth to get their 107s, learn how to be UAS pilots. So that's just something else we put in there. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be just the youngsters coming up. You can do this for the broader base, and you'll see where the DoD right now is actually doing that as we get further along in the presentation. So here's the ATC training portion of it. And a lot of this, I think, is intuitive to us. Okay, so our students lost access to the facility. Nobody was happy about the fact that either developmentals, those that just came out from the academy, or just new hired into the agency, here they are all excited, waiting. This is their dream job. And next thing you know, it's like you have to go home. Now, granted that they got their pay, and I apologize for what's going on in my neighborhood here, so hopefully that's not too distracting, but they got their dream job and then they were sent home. Read this. Here's your maps. I mean, how many times can you draw the airspace, right? CPCITs came from another facility. I've got all that background. I know what the .65 says. I need to know how it applies at my new facility, right? But then here they are. If they don't have any positions behind them, unfortunately, what they're going to have to do is now go. There's nothing for them to do. Maybe they can work flight data, right? Because they understand that. And then the CPCs, of course, we know they've got their own training that they need to do. You've got supplemental training, refresher, and unfortunately, occasionally you're going to have remedial training. So what's the solution, right? You get these extended reality platforms, and it gives the controllers the ability to continue training from anywhere while maintaining social distance. And even in our simulators, which we're not trying to replace, there is social distancing going on in our facilities, right? So that's the ATC training. Next up, how could this possibly work, right? You could have an inventory on site. Depending upon your normal load of developmentals, for example, or CPCITs that come in the facility, maybe you have 4, maybe you have a dozen, who knows? But then you would be able to have that as part of the normal training. And even when we're in a non-pandemic situation, you most certainly can go and still do that. Right now, in the interest of time, I'm going to kind of go through this a little quicker, but you can read what we're talking about here. All right, next slide, please. This is actually another really important area for tech ops. Okay, satellite and radar technician training. You saw on at least 2 slides an actual visualization of a piece of equipment where you could put the manual right in front of it. You can actually be looking at it and have it here, the exact same picture. How important is that, right? There's nothing like turning a wrench. There's nothing like hands-on training. There really isn't. But when you can't, you have to have a backup plan. You have to be able to continue this type of training. It's critical to the NAS to do that. So you can see on our solution here, right? We're talking radars and satellites. We have a whole new wave that's going on. The Air Force and the Space Force are using this solution right now. They are developing it right now. You heard Doug say that DoD has been in this digital transformation on a 10-year journey. FAA, we might be just a little behind, just a little behind. All right, same basic concept of the integration, distribution, how it would work. And our final case boils down to the Part 107 for the youth. So we can go down to the next slide, Abigail, if you don't mind. We'll just cover this fairly quickly. All right, already the Air Force is using this solution for UAV type training. That's the Air Force. We're talking serious surveillance. We're talking hunting drones. We're talking drones that could carry people, right? You know, the Predators, the big ones. And here we are scaling that down to people who are flying drones as big as your phone, right? So there really are a lot of applications here. And imagine studying for your Part 107 and then being able to actually see the controller right in front of you, to see the visual of exactly what that means. Because 107 training is effectively ground school, right? Imagine your digital chart. You pull up that sectional, and here, because of your augmented reality, you can start seeing what all these symbols mean instead of having to go to a legend for it. Really great opportunities. Next slide, please, Abigail. All right, same basic concept here. We'll go to the following slide. All right, we talked about this here, and we specifically talk about Holloman, but also there's the same type of training going on, not for pilots, but for air traffic controllers and technicians down at Keesler. And the next slide, please. Okay, improve recruiting and appeal to youth. We continually talk about we need to improve our STEM recruiting. We need to be talking about the fact that we want to bring in the best and brightest. All right, improve engagement with the stakeholders, right? And Rebecca Guy was mentioned today. How many times do we have that collaborative decision-making across all the different platforms? And obviously there's a way to practice. You don't have to shut down. You don't have to put a bunch of people in the room. There's a way that you can exercise these continuity plans that the FAA has. And the last one, I think this might be the last one. So anyhow, here's how you can get involved with this. Please visit our booth. We'll be there right after this where you can ask some questions, because I know we're coming up on time here fairly quickly. I want to thank the people that contributed. You can take a look at who they are there. And actually Neil and Joey will be at our booth today, so you can ask them some questions on it. And if you are interested in the JMA iLabs, please, you can get in touch with either Bear or I. You can see Bear's got his email as well. But thank you all very much for your time. And I realize we rushed through that, but these are these little tech talks, and certainly you can have some more communication with us. So thank you very much, Abigail. I appreciate your assistance on that. And if I have time for a question, I at least can take a look at this.
I think you have time for a question or two. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'll start it out at the bottom. So when you look at a question like, why hasn't the FAA taken advantage of virtual training solutions? I guess in a way you have to say that they have, right? Because simulators are in effect a virtual training platform, right? You're in a fabricated environment based on the reality of a situation. And those simulators, as I said earlier, you know, they're very, very good and really prepare people to walk out and do some actual air traffic control. If you've never had the opportunity to visit either the tech center or the aeronautical center, and even a lot of facilities clearly have that as well, highly encourage you to do that. Now, I'm not sure that the FAA has given much thought to a virtual type of environment, in particular, the virtual reality, full immersive type. But I am sure, and I'm speaking not from knowledge, but from my understanding of the FAA, I'm quite sure that augmented reality is in process somewhere, right? And in particular, in a training environment. So thank you for that question. I appreciate that.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Tony. As Tony said, he will be at the JMA booth. If you have any further questions, I know we have a couple that are still outstanding. Feel free to drop by the JMA booth. Dr. Oriana is going to be at the Mantech booth for the exhibitor break today from 2 to 3. So if you have more questions for him, definitely meet up with him in the exhibit hall at Mantech's booth. So thank you so much, gentlemen, and thank you for spending your time with us this morning. It's Tuesday at 11:46, so you know what that means. In 14 minutes, the Tech Center Tuesday virtual atrium experience will start. If you're interested in learning more about what the FAA Tech Center does, please register for the virtual atrium experience. You can register for that by clicking the ATM Resource Center link at the top of your page here and scrolling to the FAA. The link to registration is in that profile. When you're done at Tech, the Tech Center, I'm happy to welcome you back here at 12:30 for our AI panel, Intelligent Aerospace with AI, from bots to safety critical operations, with a tech talk from Niels Maurer from the German Aerospace Center, or DLR. At 2 p.m., we'll have our open hour in the networking pavilion and the exhibit halls. So that's something to look forward to too. Again, drop by JMA and Mantech. You can access the exhibit halls again and the ATM Resource Center at the top of the page via links there. The ACA Help Desk is in the networking pavilion. I know you've heard all of this before, but I'm just going to repeat it for that. All right, we'll go grab some lunch and I'll see you back here at 12:30 for Intelligent Airspace with AI, from bots to safety critical operations. Have a great day.